Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome to the In My Healing Bag podcast, the space where we come together to heal, grow, and transform. I'm Ashley Good, and I'm so grateful you've chosen to spend a little time with me today. If you're new here, I'm a medicine woman and death doula who is passionate about guiding women through change, transformation, especially Black and Indigenous women on their journey to wholeness. This podcast is my way of sharing the tools, stories, and wisdom I gathered along the way of my healing journey. And my hope is that it resonates with you wherever you are in your journey. So whether you're listening while driving, journaling, or just relaxing with a cup of tea, I invite you to take a deep breath, settle in, and join me as we explore this together. Hey y'all, welcome back to the In My Healing Bag podcast. I am so excited to be talking to you guys today. I hope you guys' new year is going well. I know for me, I feel like these first 2 weeks have been flying, and I just feel like that's just life right now, but it's cool. We're good. I hope you guys are doing well. But before we get started, we're going to actually start by taking a couple deep breaths just to settle into where we are. If you are driving, please, if you can, stop your car. If not, don't participate. And if you are at home or on your break or wherever you may be that is safe, please get into a comfortable position. Shut your eyes or lower your gaze, whatever's comfortable for you. But I just want you guys to be in the present moment and just allow yourself to pay attention to the rise and fall of your breath, settling into your body, getting comfortable, and just going inward. And any thoughts that may come to your mind, just allow them to pass by like clouds. Don't entertain them, don't respond to them, because this moment is for you. And we'll just take a couple deep breaths by breathing in through your nose, holding, and breathing out through your mouth. Again, in through your nose, breathing in new life. And exhaling whatever it is that no longer serves you or that you do not wish to hold on to. And we'll do one last time, breathing in, thinking about the intention we want to set for this moment, and breathing out. And just allow yourself to relax and rest into this feeling, paying attention to how it feels. And you can even pause the podcast for a moment if you just want to settle in this feeling and maybe take a few more minutes to just settle into your breath. But if you're not, allow yourself to just come into the space around you, paying attention to what you're hearing. You can begin wiggling your feet and your fingers just to get feeling back into your body. And when you're ready, just gently open your eyes. Coming back to the podcast. I don't know about y'all, but I'm feeling good. That helped me settle and rest into myself. Today has been a day, but I'm here to talk with y'all today about ancestral healing. Ancestral healing is the bread and butter of my work. And so I really wanted to start off the podcast with ancestral healing because I believe that this is the foundation of In My Healing Bag. It's providing you all with ways to tap into your ancestral wisdom, practices, working with your ancestors to remember who you are and get back to the roots of you, right? The essence of you. And if you aren't familiar with ancestral healing to me has a very dynamic meaning. It can mean a lot. So I will say that ancestral healing is working with your ancestors, tapping into the wisdom and the essence of your ancestors. I believe that is also accessing ancestral practices and modalities and medicine. And also it is the healing that transcends you in your current time. It's the healing that ripples through your ancestors that came before you and leaving an imprint for those that are coming after you. And so when we think about the impact of just ancestral healing, just using the medicine that your people that lived this earth way before you were even thought of used, and utilizing that to not only heal yourself, but heal them and heal those coming after you, it is so, so, so profound. And I'm so happy to teach ancestral healing because I think it is often forgotten. And as a lot of us are awakening in this moment in time, we are remembering who we are. We say awaken because we are waking up, right? We are remembering who we are, the fabric of our DNA, the essence of our spirit. We're remembering why we're here. We're remembering what our purpose is in this earth, and knowing that our ancestors have walked with us our entire lives, and knowing that they're there with us makes us feel supported and whole. And I know that for me, that was my journey. So I want to start off with telling y'all my experience and my introduction into ancestral healing. And then we'll get into some tips on how you can actually begin your own walk. So on the last episode, I told y'all a little bit about my spiritual awakening, remembering who I was and getting into this healing work. But one of the instances that really brought me into my ancestral healing was being able to connect with a spirit guide. So within my spiritual awakening, you know, like everyone else, I delved into TikTok. R.I.P. to the talk. If you're listening to this now, TikTok no longer exists in our world. But yeah, I dived in and I was just learning a lot because I was at the intersection of leaving Christianity, no longer feeling like it fit with my personal beliefs or my identity as a gay Black woman, and just unlearning a lot of things. And so I heard about spirit guides, right? And so I ended up doing a spirit guide meditation off of YouTube, and I was revealed to me that my spirit guide is my grandfather. And it was such a profound and beautiful experience because he passed when I was in elementary school, and that was my, I don't even know, like, that was my rock. Like, we were so tight. Like, that was my grandfather. And so to see that he's been with me this whole time was just, it warmed my heart, because ever since I was younger, I always had, after he passed, I had so many dreams that he was there, but he would never really speak. And so the fact that he was there confirmed a lot of things for me. And so that really opened up my eyes to, wow, like, my ancestors are with me. And so I heard a little bit about ancestors here and there because, you know, a lot of times when you're Black or Indigenous and you leave Christianity or you leave a religion, the next thing that we learn about is African spirituality. So as I was learning about that, I was learning about hoodoo, and hoodoo is rooted in our ancestors. And so I continued to do more research. And from there, I had a dream that I'm over here thinking about MLK. I had a dream that one day, y'all, let me be serious. I had a dream that an ancestor came to me in a dream, and she was very angelic like. I didn't know who she was at all. And she shared a message with me, and I was like, why does she feel so familiar? I remember waking up, like, I wasn't scared at all or anything, and it was very hard for me to figure out who she was because her face, I couldn't remember it. I wanted to hold on to how she looked, but her essence was so bright that I can only see, like, the color of her glow and her silhouette and a little bit of a faint details. So from there, I kind of went to my family, and I was asking questions because I felt like it could have been my great-grandmother. And they showed me pictures of her, and it confirmed that it was my great-grandmother. And the funny part is, during my meditation, when connecting with my grandfather, there was 2 women with him in the distance, and I couldn't really see who they were. And I felt like they were my great-grandmothers, but he said, you know, you'll meet them in due time. I knew they were them, but I didn't know that it would happen when it did. And so me connecting with my grandfather on that level ushered me into him introducing me to my great-grandmothers and essentially the rest of my bloodline. But as I was going on this walk, I ended up building my family tree and learning so many amazing things about my relatives. And luckily, I had an uncle who already established building our family tree. So I used Ancestry.com to build those connections and got to meet those ancestors in the spirit, and getting to connect to know like their background, getting to know my maternal bloodline and my paternal bloodline, and having these conversations with my family to understand who they are and their foundations. And so opening up this gate really made the foundation for me of beginning to understand who my ancestors are, but not only them, but understanding who I am, and paying attention to how, learning about how they show up and how that is within my current life, right? And so when I think about ancestral healing, of course, highlighting the positives, but also paying attention to the shadow aspect of it. What habits or patterns or traumas are showing up in my life currently that my ancestors have gone through? But we'll talk about that a little later in the episode, because I'm going to continue the story before I get sidetracked. After building that family tree, I also ended up participating in a program. Like, it was like a 30-day challenge. I ended up getting into hoodoo and really wanted to strengthen my connection with my ancestors. And it was like a 30-day challenge. You light a candle, you write a petition to your ancestors, and you use tarot cards to connect with them. And that really deepened my connection. That really helped me build an ancestor altar. And so when I built that altar, y'all, my gifts, because I was already in tune with my gifts as when I was in the Christian space, they strengthened and they heightened, and my ancestors were visiting me more. They were speaking to me more. I'm very clairvoyant, so visions during meditations, throughout the day, in my dreams, angel numbers, all types of things. And while this is happening simultaneously, my gifts are opening up. So I already knew I was a seer. I already knew I could hear, but I was starting to smell. I was starting to, hear music, but so that opened up my gift, and that really got me to understanding more and more about the impact of connecting to your ancestors, working with them, and understanding how my healing catapults me, not catapults, but my healing ripples 7 generations behind me, and it will transcend 7 generations after me. But this helps me to segue into what was I talking about? Y'all, side fucking track, the goddamn ADHD. I think I was going to pivot into talking about ancestral healing and how you can begin your own journey. So if you are new to ancestral healing, the first thing I would recommend you to do is to start building your family tree. Because in order for you to understand who your ancestors are or to connect with them, I believe it is important to know who's got your back. Who are you connected to? So this could look like having a conversation with family members. Begin signing up for Ancestry.com, because the beautiful thing about it is you start with who you know, and as you branch out, you can build connections with people who have already built a family tree. So for me, I started with what I knew, but luckily the names and stuff match up with the dates and things like that. I had an uncle that I found his family tree, and I found somebody else, so I was allowed to build the pieces. So I would definitely recommend, I think they have like a premium version. I didn't pay for it. I did like the 30-day free trial. Do that 30-day free trial because it'll allow you to get access to documents and things like that. If you're able to and you are connected to your family, have conversations. You don't have to outright tell them if you're not that open that you're trying to, work with your ancestors and stuff like that. Just approach it in a way where you want to get to know, those that came before you. So learning about grandma, grandpa, your aunties, your uncles, maybe even distant relatives, so you can understand who they are. And after you do that, because I feel like once you go on that journey and open yourself up to really want to get to know them, they'll start showing themselves to you. It doesn't have to be spiritually, but even when it'll come up in conversation, and you'll just have those synchronicities and those confirmations to know that you're on that right path. And then once you finish building your ancestor altar. Not y'all. I'm sorry. Once you finish building your family tree, actually, you're never going to finish. It's a continuous journey because I'm still building mine, because you can go far back as you can. For me, I ended up stopping at the 1700s because unfortunately, if you are descendants of slaves, those paperwork and documents are unavailable or hard to find. So I honestly just channeled to connect with my ancestors to get the information on who they are and where they came from. But, that's another story for another day. But after you have built your family tree or you began that journey, I would recommend you making it known to your ancestors that you want to connect with them. And this is a very important thing. If you are not used to using your gifts, if you do not work with spirits, I recommend that you start at this beginner level. So when you are making it known to your ancestors that you want to work with them, please be sure that you specify that you desire to connect with your elevated ancestors that have your highest good in mind. Because not all ancestors are benevolent, meaning they have not ascended or gotten to that higher level in consciousness yet. And a lot of them could be malevolent and could be within a lower vibration. And you don't want to welcome them into your life or into your home if they don't have the goodness in their heart for you. So make it known. You could just state it. You can write a letter and just say, I am opening up my heart to connect, or I desire to connect, whatever feels right for you. You would desire to connect with your elevated ancestors that are for your highest good. And after that, you set your intention, allow yourself to open up your heart and mind to receive messages. And as much as I wish I could tell you it's going to look one way, it's not. Like, my journey is different from yours, from the next person, but I can kid you not. Once you open that door to building that family tree, you're going to start getting messages in whatever way possible. Once you set that intention after building your family tree that you want to start connecting with them on a deeper level, your gifts are probably going to start opening up. If they're not already, they're probably going to get heightened. But once you begin to build that connection and you feel like you are comfortable, I will begin to open up a line of communication. And for that could look like, that you want them to make themselves known by a certain smell or a certain song, because when you're communicating with spirit, you could talk to them just like you're talking to a person that's living or sitting right in front of you. Like, hey, ancestors, I really want to talk to you. When you're around, please send me this sign, please send me this song, or send me this smell. And that's a good way to know when they're around. A lot of times, if there's a specific relative that you like, your grandma, for instance, grandma wore a certain scent of perfume, but maybe you're at work and you smell that scent and there's nobody around you, that's grandma. Or maybe you hear a song on the radio and that reminds you of your cousin. So pay attention to those indicators and those cues, because it'll let you know who is elevated and who's on your team. And that's how you know who's on your spirit team, who is like working alongside you. And so once you get to the point where you're able to identify who those people are and you feel like you're ready, and even ask them if you're ready, if you don't feel comfortable or confident, but you can start building your ancestor altar. If you are hesitant, if you are confused and you lack clarity, do not build it yet, because as you begin to get deeper and deeper into the practice, your spiritual experiences will open up and be more intense. Not to scare you or anything like that, but just to be open and honest, especially if you're coming new into the spiritual space. If you're experiencing spirituality, you know what I'm talking about. But dealing with spirit and dealing with the spiritual realm is no joke, and it ain't nothing to play with. So when you are ready to set up that altar and you are confident about it, then you begin. You could even begin by having a conversation with your ancestors like, look, I want to build this altar for you, but I'm a little nervous about it, whatever the case may be, and just have that dialogue. Or you can go to a tarot card reader or ancestor reader like myself, where you can get, messages from your ancestors on what is recommended for you to do if you lack clarity. But begin to build your altar, and start plain and simple is, if you yet don't know who your ancestors are, that is okay. Maybe they're communicating to you in a general sense. Maybe there's nobody that you may know, and you just know that you're talking to your ancestors and they're elevated. It's fine if you don't have anything specifically to identify who they are. All you need is start with a sacred space in your home, preferably a table, or it could be the kitchen counter, whatever space that you have. It could be a shoebox. But start with a white cloth, laying that down. I'm giving y'all the tea. Using a white cloth white representing purity and the essence of your ancestors. Then from there, you need different things that represent the elements. So you need a glass of water to represent water. You need a white candle that's going to represent fire. You can use an incense to represent air. And then also you need something to represent earth. So this can be a plant, this can be crystals, this can be flowers, anything like that, anything of some sort. And if you don't have real flowers, maybe you live in a desert or something, like with sand, you could do sand, seashells, whatever you feel called to, right? Just start where you're at. I know specifically for me, if you don't want to represent air could be the breath if you don't have incense. So just use what you have, because remember, when our ancestors were practicing what they practiced, they didn't have all these things. They use what they have. So don't feel like you need to go to the store and spend all this money. Just use what you have. That's how I started. Mine started on a bookcase, and it has grown and grown and grown. Once you build that altar, then if you feel like you have been able to identify what elevated ancestors are present with you, that's when you begin to put things on the altar that resemble them. So whether it's a picture, whether it is a memory of them, like for example, if you had an ancestor that went to Mexico and sent you something, you can use that as symbolism, or maybe some trinkets of theirs, jewelry, watches, anything like that symbolize them. You can put it on the altar. If you don't have access at all to these things that they may have had, or any images, you can honestly simply write their name on a piece of paper. I know for me, that's what I do for my ancestors that I have tracked back years and years and years that have no photos, is writing their name on a sheet of paper. So you could start there. If you don't know any ancestors at all, that is okay too. You can write them a petition. And a petition is just a letter saying, thank you to my elevated ancestors that have gone before me, and just pouring your heart out. Because although you don't know who they are, they know who you are, and they recognize you and know you by your DNA. And I don't want you to ever feel like you are not worthy of connecting with your ancestors because you don't know who they are. Whether you were adopted, whether you're estranged from your family, whether maybe you just don't have a relationship with your family. Maybe it's only you and one other person. Just know that you are worthy of connecting with your ancestors, and their blood and DNA strands are running through you, so they know who you are. And eventually they may reveal themselves to you, right? Like, so for me, I just knew who I knew while I was here. I didn't know anybody beyond my great grandparents. So now I know my 16th great grandmother. And it's amazing how these things are revealed to me in dreams, or randomly just finding a picture, or, things like that. So as you continue this walk with them, it never ends. It's an endless journey. You'll get to know each and every individual person that walks with you. And it's such a beautiful, 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 beautiful experience. So, once you lay down that foundation, actually, we'll stop here, y'all. I'm not going to overload you right now. So I'm going to actually break this up into the series. So this will be our ancestral healing series. I thought I could talk about it all in one episode, but I don't want to overwhelm you guys. So I want y'all to not ruminate, but I don't know what I'm trying to say. Marinate. I want y'all to marinate on this information, whether you're new or experienced in this space, and just focus on your connection to your ancestors, no matter where you are in your journey. If you're inquisitive about it, do some more research on it. If you're ready to start building your family tree. Whatever point you're at, just pick up where you left off. If you have a relationship with them, you have your altar and you guys work together, how can you deepen that connection? So I want you guys to really focus on that connection aspect. And then the next episode, we'll take it a step further into working with them and incorporating them into your healing work so that you can really activate that healing. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode and receiving all this information. I want to actually take the time to I wanted to take the time to answer some questions, that I usually get online. I want you guys to continue to send some questions that I can answer on the podcast regularly if I would stop stumbling over my words. But I specifically get a lot of questions about just ancestor work and just working with your ancestors, all of the things. The first question is, for me, actually, I kind of answered this already. But it's from someone from TikTok. They asked, can you explain the difference between elevated and non-elevated ancestors, and where y'all have space for all these altars? So just for context, on my TikTok video, I was actually talking about like having altars for your elevated ancestors and your non-elevated ancestors, which we'll actually cover later on throughout our journey to learning more about ancestral healing. But a little bit more of what I was talking about, I can elaborate. So the difference between your elevated ancestors and your non-elevated ancestors is that your elevated ancestors have elevated in their spiritual realm. They have reached a form of higher consciousness, and your non-elevated ancestors are those that are still doing the work. So just to put it in perspective for you guys, when we pass on and we go to the spiritual realm, you are also in the ancestral realm. And the ancestral realm is where your ancestors are. And so these are our loved ones that have passed on. And so the ones that have ascended are the ones that are of a higher frequency, those that have done their work, those that have done the healing, those that have set the intention to remain in a state of peace. They have ascended. And as you pass on the other side, there are still those that need to do the work. So me specifically, I had an ancestor that had passed. I wanted them to go on the altar, but my ancestors told me it wasn't time yet because they were doing the work. So they were still working on themselves, and they had a lot of things to clean up. Whatever contract they had with spirit, or whatever them and their gods agreed with when they got to the other side, they had some more work to do. So as they still are in the ancestral realm, they are at a lower vibration. I want to kind of call it purgatory, but I do believe myself that there's a purgatory between the higher vibration in which you ascend and then kind of like a lower vibration. And so we'll just call it purgatory just for the sense of it. But this ancestor is still doing the work. So I'm not going to work with them when it comes to my healing journey, because I only desire to connect with those that are of a higher frequency, because I know that they see the bigger picture. They see, they've done the work, they've done the healing, so I'm going to tap into that higher vibration because they have my goodness in mind, versus those of a lower vibration. If they're still doing the work, they probably cannot help me. A lot of times there are those that are non-elevated because they're of a lower vibration, so those that might have had issues with alcoholism that they decided they didn't want to work on. Maybe those that were, had ill intent, or they're still in those toxic cycles, and when they passed, they decided that they still didn't want to clean that up. So they are of a lower vibration. And so that's why I say it's so important to work with your elevated ancestors and not your non-elevated ancestors, because I hear of people's stories where they're like, yeah, I was working with my ancestors and they told me to do this. And when they mentioned what they told them to do, it was not of their highest good. Like one girl specifically, I heard a story, I think it was on TikTok. She was like, yeah, I always work with my ancestors, but for some reason they always lead me to the wrong people. And so my next question is, who are you working with? Why are your ancestors leading you to the wrong people? It could be one or two things. Either you're going there for the lesson, or you're just talking to the wrong ancestors. And so for those ancestors that maybe they are still in toxic cycles on the other side, they haven't healed from those abusive relationships, they're giving you information and advice from what they only know. But when you connect to those that are elevated and are of a higher vibration, and they see the bigger picture, they've healed themselves, or they were on their healing journey, they can give you a bigger perspective. So I said all that to say that the elevated ancestors have done the work, they've ascended, they're at a higher vibration, and those that are not elevated are still in the ancestral realm, still doing the work, or choose to be in this lower vibration and do not serve your highest good. But yeah, that doesn't mean that they cannot ascend. Because eventually, like for me, I was telling you about the ancestor that couldn't go on the altar because they were still doing the work. They ascended, and it was time for me to put them on the altar. And if this is something that you desire to do, we will cover this in future episodes, or submit me a specific question, and I do not mind answering it. But yeah, so thank you for whoever answered that question. I hope that provides you with information that you're looking for. Y'all, we got a new segment. It is called What's in My Healing Bag, where I'm going to be sharing with you guys a spiritual tool every episode. And what is in my healing bag today is a little ancestral candle magic. Now, this is not disregard what I said earlier in the episode when I was telling y'all the steps to take, because we're always going to gradually go through this journey responsibly. This is something that you do after you have built your family tree and you're at that point right before it's time to create an altar, or you have created your altar and you want to petition to connect with your elevated ancestors. So what you're going to need is, of course, a surface, white cloth. You're going to lay down your white cloth. You need a white 7-day candle, specifically a white 7-day candle, because white, of course, represents purification and the pure essence of your elevated ancestors. And you'll just need a paper and a writing utensil. And on this sheet of paper, you're going to petition to your ancestors, just stating, "Dear elevated ancestors, blah, 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 blah." So basically, you're going to state, if your desire is to connect to your ancestors, I desire to connect with my elevated ancestors that are for my highest good. And maybe you could write a little bit about, what your intention is with connecting with them. If you already have a relationship with your ancestors, that's where the blah blah comes in, right? You're going to write what your intention is for them. So maybe you need help finding a job. Dear elevated ancestors, I desire, and then you get clear on what the intention is. And when you're done, you're going to fold that paper up. You're going to place it on that white cloth, and then you're going to set your 7-day candle on top. You're going to light that candle and allow that candle to burn until it goes out. As you go through this ritual, you're going to see that more than likely, whatever the intention is going to start showing itself. Or by the time it's out, it is going to start coming to a head. So this is a great way to connect with your ancestors, especially if you are experienced or you are new after you have built your ancestor family tree. You see, y'all said that because y'all not finna come back to me like, "Ash, my lights is going out." I'm not finna scare y'all, but y'all not finna come back to me scared, because this is y'all first time dealing with spirits. So I need y'all to take y'all time. So this is at a what's the level after beginner? Intermediate level, right? So yeah, anyways, that is the tool for the week. Of course, if y'all have any questions, like I said, shoot me a DM. Y'all can leave some comments below. And I'm going to see y'all on the next episode. Hey girl, if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go down below, leave a comment and a review. And also you can stay connected with us on Instagram at What's in My Healing Bag. If you feel like you need a little bit more help on your ancestral healing journey, you can go to asheswellnessgarden.com to look at our services. And we can continue the conversation as well on Discord. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Love you so much. And I'll see you on the next episode.